Okay, so you caught me sitting here in the hammock trying to get you guys ready, get you a little education while I spend time on my vacation. I'm going to do my best here to get you all the information you'll need in order to get your lab packet taken care of. So here we go. In this unit, we're basically going to hope that you will understand that living organisms act with one another and their environment. As they interact, different things happen. By the time we're through here, you'll be able to summarize how energy flows through an ecosystem. You'll also be able to describe how interactions among organisms and their environments help shape ecosystems. So an ecosystem we'll talk about in a little bit, but remember that's just kind of the big area where different things live. So in your lab packet, if you'll open up here to the page here, and we're going to speak about ecology. As far as ecology goes, what we have to realize here is ology or logy is the study of, sorry, just a sec here. Got to make kids go take the cookies out, so hopefully I can get them to go get the cookies out of the oven. Sorry you guys don't get any. Yeah. The relationships between living things and their environment. So ecology is going to be the study of these things and how we do it. In your lab book, you'll notice that you have almost the exact same sentences that are on here. So what you'll need to do is make sure you're filling in the blanks with this. These organisms that we discuss can be living, which would be biotic organisms, or non-living, which would be abiotic. So remember, bio means life. A is the Latin word for not. So abiotic would be not life. Different things that would be biotic. Should cover everything that we talked about, remember, in the living, non-living, dead lab. So biotic things would be plants, animals, algae, bacteria. Anything that has the ability to move, grow, reproduce, and use energy would be biotic. Non-living things would be things such as, the simple stuff would be rocks, but then you have some of the biggest factors would be water, temperature, all these things that are going to affect the way that different living organisms have to come up with strategies in order to survive, are going to be the abiotics. As we go down, now we're going to talk about ecosystem. Now, an ecosystem, we can all read. I'll read it to you so it'll help you. A system comprising of a community of living organisms and its surroundings. Biotic organisms interacting with biotic and abiotic factors within an area. So when we talk about living and non-living within an area, consider how big that area could be. If we wanted to consider the ecosystem of Box Elder County, that is a rather large ecosystem. If we need to make it a little bigger, we're going to discuss the ecosystem of the state of Utah, and we're going to get all sorts of different biotic and abiotic. Normally with an ecosystem we wouldn't consider as big as the state of Utah because there's so many different animals. If we wanted to narrow it down for Box Elder County, we can simply go to the city of Corinne and what animals are living in Corinne. I know next door Mrs. Robinson is complaining that she has animals all over in her fields, from the smallest voles, which are causing and breeding by the millions and millions of them out on her ditch banks. She has these nutria and these different things which are causing all sorts of havoc, wrecking the dams. So when they water, it's causing all sorts of havoc. Parts of the field are getting flooded, some are not getting watered at all. And so that ecosystem in just simply Corinne, and that doesn't include all of the hawks, all of the birds of prey, the cattle, whatever else, the coyotes, everything else living out there, including the humans. And then, of course, the alfalfa and the corn would also be part of that ecosystem. On top of that, she would have to count the non-living factors, the abiotic factors, which would be things such as water, the sun, sunlight in order to help plants to grow, and sun, which is going to cause the temperature to rise, right? You can blame it on partial body heat, but a lot of it has to do with how much heat you're putting off that's making the classroom Hopefully not more than about 82 or 83. But my bet is it's going to be at least that hot because it wasn't scheduled to get cooler than that. So we have all sorts of these factors coming into play in this ecosystem. Now, when we go from smallest to biggest, and we start to study these things, we have ecology. That's the overall study of ecosystems. So as we cover this chapter of ecology, we're going to be studying all sorts of different ecosystems. We have the deep oceans, we have the middle oceans, we have the upper oceans. We have the high deserts, which we live and are a part of here in Utah. We have the low deserts, such as Death Valley in California. We have the coniferous forest. We have my all-time favorite ecosystem where I would live if I could all time, which would be the islands of the Caribbean. Beautiful, right? And in order to keep that ecosystem healthy, we need to make sure that we're taking care of some of the abiotic factors such as pollution, things like that. We need to keep the abiotic factors from killing the biotic factors. Ecosystems, for the most part, because they've been around for so long, are always, always, always balanced, right? There's going to be things living and dying, but they've taken that and have been that way for so long that there's no need to worry about what's going on in those ecosystems because they become balanced. We know that even here in Utah, in our forest ecosystem, that there are enough cougars out there to eat the deer. And then when the cougar population drops and the deer population rises, those cougars are better able to feed themselves. And so the deer population then begins to drop, and it works out, and it's been not a steady, but it's been a fluctuating, always in balance ecosystem. And then humans come along, and we get human activities. And part of our human activities were to drop the number of deer population through our hunting. And what we found is that we have to now take that control, and especially as we start to influence ecosystems because they've been balanced for so long, and we have to put a human control on that. With our activities, we also have to monitor the pollutants that are going in there. It's part of the reasons why you see those commercials on TV about making sure that we're not dumping just random things down in the sewers, because everything flows to the ocean and we're polluting waterways and everything like that because of our influence on that. Anytime an ecosystem falls out of balance, primarily within the last 500 years, it's been because humans have affected that. One of the biggest effects on that would be the ecosystem up in Yellowstone. And we'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. Now, ecosystem includes all producers and consumers. So what's a producer? Producer would be anything that can create its own food. So as you think about that, hopefully you are thinking right now about plants. And plants are able to produce their own food. As that happens, they are producers. However, plants are not the largest as far as sheer mass and numbers on the planet for producers. The largest group of producers on this planet is what we would call algae. And if you think of it, the planet is 75% water. Algae live in water, so there's algae everywhere. And these algae, because of the amount of water, are the largest group of producers on the planet. However, we as humans typically don't like to eat algae. It doesn't taste very good. And so we tend to stick with plants, especially those that we grow and have cultivated and formulated to grow into something that we really, really like. Sometimes we do change things, right? If you look at the natural color of a carrot, it can be anything from white to yellow to orange to even purple. However, as humans, we found that we like the color of the carrot to be orange the most, and so that's what we've primarily grown with that. Consumers would be anything that eats a producer, or anything that does not make its own food and has to eat other consumers. Community. So what is a community? Community would be the collection of one or more populations that inhabit an environment. So if we look at it, realistically, community is about third in the size of, or in the scale of going from smallest to biggest in those things we're going to study. We're going to start out with, in honor of Three Dog Night. Most of you are not even going to know that that's a band, but it's a band titled Three Dog Night, and they sang a song that one is the loneliest number. For those of you that know it, it's a good song, it's fun. But that one is the loneliest number is going to be the smallest unit. It's going to be a single individual in anything, and that is going to be what we call just simply the individual. It's one of anything. One fish, one deer, one human. And then from one, we're going to put a couple of them together, and we're going to go from individual to population. A population would be any group of a single type of species. So a school of fish that are all the same. A pack of wolves, a herd of deer, a herd of cows, a murder of crows, a gang of people. Anything that there is a single type or one single species with more than one is a population. And then if you look on here, obviously we take a couple of different types of populations. So when we take different schools of fish and put them together, now they become a community. We take a couple of different, right? So in my family that I showed you the picture of, we have humans. We also have dogs. We have the demon dog. In fact, if you're wanting to see, I think he's right here. He's behaving well. Let me hurry and show you him. Maybe. Odie. There is the demon dog for you. Can you say hi? No? So now you've got a real live look at the demon dog. But with my family of humans and the dog, we've now become a community because there's two different populations living together. When we go from community, the next step up is going to be, obviously we've got population here. A group of one species interbreed and live at the same time. So from community, we go to habitat. What's the difference between a community, a group of different animals living together, and a habitat? What makes things a habitat? I'm going to give you just a minute, and I want you to turn and tell your elbow partner what you think the difference would be between a community and a habitat. We're going to pause this recording, and then once we go to the next one, you're going to be able to answer that question. And if you can't, then I'll be the one to answer it for you.